New info on Horner to Ferrari has been revealed. Aston hires another top Ferrari engineer, and Mercedes' 2026 engine gets a boost. Let's get into the latest F1 news. Ferrari is in absolute chaos right now, and the drama behind the scenes is getting wilder by the day. We're talking about one of the most storied teams in Formula One history, potentially imploding from within, and it all centers around their team principal Fred Vasseur, who might be on the verge of losing his job despite signing a brand new contract just months ago. Picture this scene. Your Ferrari management and your season has been an absolute disaster. No wins, with just 6 races left on the calendar. Your star signing Lewis Hamilton got disqualified from the Chinese Grand Prix because of a fundamental car problem that you still haven't fixed. Your drivers are having to lift and coast on the straights just to protect the car from falling apart. The pressure is mounting and fingers are pointing in every direction. Now, here's where it gets really spicy. Reports are surfacing that Vasseur had what sources are calling a heated confrontation with Matteo Tognanelli, who runs Ferrari's trackside engineering operations at the Singapore Grand Prix. We're talking about a shouting match between two of the most powerful people in the Ferrari garage, and this is exactly the kind of internal warfare that can destroy a team from the inside out. But let's rewind and understand how we got to this point, because the story is absolutely wild. Ferrari started this season with such high hopes. They had Lewis Hamilton joining the team, which should have been a dream scenario. Instead, they've been dealing with a nightmare ride height issue that has plagued their car all season long. This isn't just a minor aerodynamic problem we're talking about. This is a fundamental flaw that forced them to raise the ride height and sacrifice performance just to keep the car legal. The situation got so bad that both Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were disqualified from the Chinese Grand Prix because the skid blocks on their cars were worn down too much from scraping the track. Imagine being Ferrari management, watching your 2 superstar drivers get thrown out of a race because your car literally can't handle being driven at racing speeds without destroying itself. This technical disaster led to serious questions about Vasseur's leadership, and by June there were rumors flying around the Canadian Grand Prix that he was about to get fired. The speculation was so intense that Ferrari actually reached out to Christian Horner while he was still at Red Bull to gauge his interest in potentially taking over. They were also looking at Antonello Coletta, who runs Ferrari's incredibly successful endurance racing program, as another possible replacement. Ferrari tried to shut down all this speculation by giving Vasseur a new multi-year contract extension right before the Hungarian Grand Prix. Their CEO made this big statement about trusting Fred's leadership and how the deal reflected their shared ambition and mutual expectations. It seemed like the perfect PR move to end the uncertainty and show confidence in their team principal. But here's the thing about Formula One politics. Nothing ever stays quiet for long, and the pressure never really goes away. Despite that shiny new contract, the rumors are back, and they're stronger than ever. German media is reporting that Ferrari is seriously considering replacing Vasseur again, and the timing couldn't be more dramatic, with Christian Horner now available after his massive settlement with Red Bull. The reported confrontation with Tognanelli adds a whole new layer to this story. Tognanelli himself has been under scrutiny this season. His position came under fire after the double disqualification in China, but he managed to rebuild trust with the technical team. However, with Ferrari's season continuing to spiral, the internal pressure has apparently reached a breaking point. What makes this situation even more fascinating is how Vasseur responded to the contract extension rumors earlier this year. He was genuinely angry about how the speculation was affecting his team. He called out the media for creating distracting noise and generating clicks with aggressive reporting. He specifically mentioned how unfair it was that his technical director was being criticized for a car that was basically finished before he even joined Ferrari. Vasseur also talked about how these rumors were impacting Charles Leclerc, with constant speculation about him potentially moving to Mercedes despite having a long-term Ferrari contract. He said the emotional reaction in Italy to all this noise was making his job much harder and slowing down internal discussions about his future. The irony is thick here, because now, just months after signing that contract extension, the exact same type of speculation is swirling again, and this time it might actually have legs. The reported heated exchange in Singapore suggests that the internal pressure at Ferrari has reached a boiling point, where senior figures are openly clashing about the team's direction. What's particularly interesting about the Christian Horner angle is the timing. His Red Bull departure came with a massive $100 million settlement, but also reportedly includes restrictions that would prevent him from returning to Formula One until mid-2026. This creates a fascinating chess game where Ferrari might want him but can't actually get him anytime soon. The situation at Ferrari right now perfectly encapsulates everything that makes Formula One so compelling beyond just the racing. You have massive egos, enormous financial pressure, technical challenges that seem impossible to solve, and personality conflicts that threaten to tear apart one of the sport's most iconic teams. Whether Vasseur survives this latest wave of speculation or becomes another casualty of Ferrari's endless drama remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The next few weeks are going to be absolutely crucial for determining the future direction of the Scuderia and potentially reshaping the entire political landscape of Formula One. Could Lewis Hamilton finally break Ferrari's championship drought, or will he become another legend who couldn't deliver for the prancing horse? The clock is ticking, and according to Formula One veteran Riccardo Patrese, Hamilton has until 2027 to complete what might be the most crucial mission of his career. The seven-time world champion made a shocking move to Ferrari in 2025, leaving Mercedes after dominating the hybrid era. But his debut season in red hasn't exactly been the fairy tale start many expected. Despite halting a concerning slump in form that had people questioning whether age was catching up with him, Hamilton still hasn't managed to reach the podium as a Ferrari driver. That's a sobering reality for someone who's won more races than any other driver in Formula One history. What makes this situation even more intriguing is Hamilton's own admission about the pressure he's facing. He's painfully aware of the ghosts that haunt Maranello. Champions like Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel arrived at Ferrari with multiple titles under their belts, only to leave empty-handed. The irony isn't lost on anyone that Hamilton mistakenly included Kimi Räikkönen in this group during a recent interview, forgetting that the Iceman actually delivered Ferrari's last championship back in 2007. But here's where Hamilton's story gets interesting. He's not just another aging champion looking for one last hurrah. The British driver has made it crystal clear that he refuses to accept the same fate as those who came before him. He's actively challenging Ferrari's internal processes, drawing on his experience from two championship-winning organizations to identify areas for improvement. The timing couldn't be more critical. With sweeping regulation changes coming in 2026, covering both chassis and engine specifications, Hamilton's window of opportunity might be narrower than many realize. These aren't minor tweaks we're talking about. This is a complete overhaul that will level the playing field and potentially reshuffle the competitive order. Patrese, who won 6 Grand Prix during his own career, believes Hamilton has the determination and experience to make a difference. The Italian former driver hopes Hamilton can bring more than just driving excellence to Ferrari. He wants to see organizational improvements that address the team's historical struggles with strategy and internal coordination. It's a tall order, but one that could define Hamilton's legacy. The mathematics of Hamilton's career trajectory are stark. He'll turn 41 before the 2026 season begins, placing him firmly in the twilight of his racing career. He hasn't challenged for a championship since his bitter battle with Max Verstappen in 2021, when controversial officiating decisions cost him what would have been a record 8th title. The question isn't whether Hamilton still has the speed. Recent performances have proven he does, but whether Ferrari can build a car capable of championship contention. What's particularly fascinating about Hamilton's Ferrari chapter is the strategic gamble involved. He could have stayed at Mercedes, continued collecting victories, and gradually wound down his career in familiar surroundings. Instead, he chose the harder path, the one with higher stakes and greater potential for either triumph or disappointment. The documents Hamilton submitted to Ferrari as part of his integration process have generated significant speculation. While the specific contents remain confidential, they represent Hamilton's analytical approach to understanding and improving Ferrari's operational effectiveness. This isn't just a driver joining a team, it's a championship-winning system attempting to transform an underperforming organization. Ferrari's current position in the championship standings tells its own story. Sitting third in the Constructors' Championship, 27 points behind Mercedes, they're clearly capable of building competitive machinery. But capability and championship-winning consistency are two different things entirely. The gap between occasional brilliance and sustained excellence has defined Ferrari's struggles throughout the turbo-hybrid era. The pressure isn't just on Hamilton individually. His partnership with Charles Leclerc creates an intriguing dynamic within the team. Leclerc has shown championship-level speed, but hasn't had machinery consistent enough to mount a title challenge. Hamilton's arrival could either elevate both drivers through shared knowledge and competition, or create internal tension that undermines their collective efforts. What makes Patrice's 2027 timeline particularly significant is its acknowledgement of Hamilton's age and the realities of modern Formula One. Physical demands have increased dramatically, and the mental pressure of competing at the highest level becomes more challenging as reflexes naturally decline. Even champions of Hamilton's caliber aren't immune to the effects of time. The broader implications of Hamilton's Ferrari mission extend beyond individual achievement. A successful championship would validate Ferrari's hiring decision and potentially mark the beginning of a new era of dominance. Failure would add another chapter to the team's recent history of missed opportunities and strategic missteps. As we head into the crucial regulation changes of 2026, Hamilton's Ferrari story represents more than just another chapter in Formula One history. It's a test of whether experience, determination, and analytical thinking can overcome organizational inertia and the simple reality that time waits for no one, not even seven-time world champions. The countdown to 2027 has begun, and the stakes couldn't be higher. What happens when the most legendary car designer in Formula One history joins forces with a rising technical mastermind from Ferrari? We're about to find out, because Aston Martin just pulled off one of the most strategic hiring moves in recent F1 memory, and the way they're managing these two powerhouse talents could reshape the entire championship landscape. Picture this scenario that had every F1 fan worried. You bring in Adrian Newey, the design genius behind multiple championship-winning cars, and then you hire Enrico Cardile, Ferrari's former chassis technical director. Two brilliant minds, both used to being the top technical authority at their previous teams. This should be a recipe for disaster, right? Conflicting egos, overlapping responsibilities, power struggles that could tear apart a team's technical department before they even get started. But here's where Aston Martin's CEO Andy Cowell just revealed something absolutely fascinating about how they've structured this dream team partnership. Instead of creating competition between these two technical heavyweights, they've crafted complementary roles that actually amplify each other's strengths. Let me break down exactly how they've avoided what could have been a catastrophic clash of titans. Newey isn't just drawing pretty car shapes in his famous sketchbook anymore. His role as managing technical partner focuses intensively on the core DNA of the car itself. We're talking about the fundamental architecture, the aerodynamic philosophy, the mechanical systems that form the backbone of a championship contending machine. This is the stuff you absolutely cannot afford to get wrong, because once you've committed to these core design principles, changing them mid-season becomes nearly impossible. Meanwhile, Cardile stepped into the Chief Technical Officer position with a completely different mandate. His focus centers on building the human infrastructure, the organizational systems, and the innovation. Processes that turn brilliant ideas into race-winning reality. Think of it this way. Newey creates the masterpiece blueprint, while Cardile builds the factory and team capable of executing that vision flawlessly. What makes this partnership even more intriguing is the timing. With the massive regulation changes coming in 2026, Aston Martin needed both types of expertise desperately. The new power unit regulations and chassis rules represent the biggest technical reset Formula One has seen in years. Teams that nail these changes from day one will have a massive competitive advantage that could last for years. The psychological dynamics here are absolutely crucial. Cowell mentioned something that reveals just how well this partnership is working. These two technical masterminds have offices right next to each other, and they're having lunch together most days. That might sound trivial, but it's actually revolutionary in Formula One terms. How often do you see two senior technical leaders from competing backgrounds genuinely collaborating instead of protecting their territorial boundaries? This collaboration becomes even more significant when you consider their backgrounds. Newey built his legendary reputation at teams like Williams, McLaren, and Red Bull, creating cars that dominated different eras of Formula One. His design philosophy emphasizes intuitive engineering and aerodynamic efficiency that others struggle to replicate. Cardile, on the other hand, developed his expertise within Ferrari's unique technical culture, understanding how to manage complex development programs and coordinate massive technical teams. The stakes couldn't be higher for Aston Martin right now. Lawrence Stroll has invested hundreds of millions in new facilities, including a state-of-the-art factory and wind tunnel. They've signed Fernando Alonso, one of the greatest drivers in F1 history, who's hungry for another championship opportunity. They're preparing to become a Soteam.U2.co works team with Honda engines from 2026. Every piece of this championship puzzle depends on getting the technical leadership structure exactly right. What's particularly clever about their role division is how it addresses the typical pitfalls of high-profile technical hirings. Too often, teams bring in big names who end up stepping on each other's expertise, creating internal conflicts that actually slow down development. By clearly defining Newey's focus on core car architecture and Cardile's emphasis on organizational excellence, they've created synergy instead of competition. The early signs look incredibly promising. According to Cowell's observations, both leaders understand and respect each other's strengths, which suggests they've moved past any potential ego conflicts into genuine partnership territory. This mutual respect becomes the foundation for everything else they're trying to accomplish. Here's what makes this story even more compelling for Formula One fans. We're potentially witnessing the formation of the sport's next technical dynasty. Newey's track record speaks for itself, but adding Cardile's organizational expertise and Ferrari-honed development processes could create something unprecedented in modern F1. The 2026 regulation changes represent Aston Martin's best opportunity to leapfrog the established hierarchy. Teams like Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari will all be starting from similar technical baselines, which means superior design philosophy and organizational execution could determine who emerges as the new championship contender. As we watch this partnership develop over the coming months, the real test will come when these complementary roles face the pressure of actual car development, testing, and racing. Can Newey's innovative design concepts mesh seamlessly with Cardile's systematic development approach? Will their collaborative relationship survive the intense pressure of championship competition? One thing is certain: Aston Martin has just set up what could become Formula One's most fascinating technical partnership, and the results could reshape the entire competitive landscape starting in 2026. The Formula One world has been rocked by one of its biggest storylines in recent memory, and today we're diving deep into the explosive comments from Susie Wolff about Christian Horner's dramatic exit from Red Bull. Trust me, what she revealed will change how you see one of F1's most controversial figures forever. Picture this scenario. You're one of the most successful team principals in Formula One history. You've guided your team to 6 Constructors' Championships and 8 Drivers' titles. You've been the face of Red Bull racing for over 2 decades. Then suddenly, everything comes crashing down in the most public way possible. This is exactly what happened to Christian Horner, and now we're getting unprecedented insights into what really went on behind the scenes. The bombshell dropped when Susie Wolff, head of F1 Academy and wife of Mercedes boss Toto Wolff, finally broke her silence about Horner's departure. Her words were absolutely devastating. She claimed that Horner essentially performed an act throughout his entire tenure at Red Bull, suggesting that the persona we all knew wasn't the real man behind the scenes. But before we unpack these incredible revelations, let's establish the context that makes this story so explosive. Christian Horner wasn't just any team principal. Since taking charge of Red Bull in 2005, he transformed the energy drink company's racing division into one of the most dominant forces in Formula One history. Under his leadership, Sebastian Vettel claimed 4 consecutive world championships, and more recently, Max Verstappen has dominated the sport with back-to-back titles. Horner's success wasn't just measured in trophies. He became the face of Red Bull's aggressive, no-nonsense approach to racing. His media presence was commanding, his tactical decisions were often brilliant, and his ability to motivate his team was legendary. He was exactly the kind of larger-than-life personality that Formula One thrives on. However, everything changed dramatically in early 2024 when serious allegations surfaced regarding inappropriate behavior toward a Red Bull colleague. The accusations sent shockwaves through the paddock and put Horner's entire career under intense scrutiny. While he was twice cleared of these claims through internal investigations and consistently denied any wrongdoing, the damage to his reputation and Red Bull's image was significant. The situation created an impossible environment for both Horner and the team. Despite his cleared status, the controversy overshadowed everything Red Bull achieved on track. The media circus surrounding the allegations became increasingly difficult to manage, and it was clear that something had to give. In July 2024, following the British Grand Prix, Red Bull made the decision that shocked the motorsport world. After more than 20 years at the helm, Christian Horner was removed from his position. Laurent Mekies, previously with Racing Bulls, stepped in as the new chief executive and team principal. The era of Christian Horner at Red Bull had officially ended. The financial details of his departure were staggering. Reports suggest that Horner received a settlement worth approximately $100 million, highlighting just how significant his departure was for the organization. This wasn't just a simple resignation. This was the end of one of Formula One's most successful partnerships. Now, here's where Susie Wolff's comments become absolutely fascinating. Remember, she isn't just any observer. As head of F1 Academy, she works closely with teams across the paddock. As Toto Wolff's wife, she has intimate knowledge of the intense rivalry between Mercedes and Red Bull that defined the sport's recent history. Her perspective carries enormous weight. When Wolff described Horner as someone who performed a character throughout his Red Bull tenure, she wasn't making a casual observation. She was suggesting that the public persona we all knew was carefully crafted and maintained. The aggressive competitor, the media-savvy spokesman, the fearless leader, according to Wolff, these were all parts of a performance rather than authentic expressions of his personality. This revelation forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about one of Formula One's most prominent figures. Was the Christian Horner who sparred with rival team principals in press conferences the real person? Were his passionate defenses of his drivers and his team genuine emotions, or calculated responses designed to maintain his image? Wolff's comments about the controversy being damaging to the sport's image are equally significant. She specifically mentioned how the allegations created unwanted attention that overshadowed positive developments in Formula One, particularly regarding F1 Academy's progress. This suggests that the impact of the Horner situation extended far beyond Red Bull Racing itself. The timing of these revelations is particularly intriguing. With Horner now officially separated from Red Bull and reportedly free to pursue other opportunities in Formula One by the 2026 season, speculation about his future is reaching fever pitch. Industry insiders suggest he might seek a team ownership position similar to Toto Wolff's role at Mercedes, where he combines executive responsibilities with team principal duties. The irony isn't lost on anyone that Horner might return to compete directly against his former adversary Toto Wolff in a similar capacity. Their rivalry during the 2021 championship battle between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton was legendary, filled with public disagreements and behind-the-scenes tension that captivated fans worldwide. Toto Wolff himself hasn't held back in his assessment of his former rival, using particularly colorful language to describe their professional relationship. He acknowledged Horner's success while criticizing his methods and values, painting a picture of someone he respected professionally but disagreed with fundamentally on how to conduct business in Formula One. What makes this story so compelling is how it highlights the complex personalities that drive Formula One's drama. The sport isn't just about the fastest cars or the most skilled drivers. It's about the characters who create narratives, generate controversy, and keep fans emotionally invested in outcomes that extend far beyond race results. As we look toward the future, several questions remain unanswered. Will Christian Horner successfully return to Formula One in a new capacity? How will his legacy at Red Bull be remembered? And perhaps most importantly, will the real Christian Horner please stand up? Only time will tell if the character Susie Wolff described was truly a performance, or if there are more layers to this story than we currently understand. What if I told you that McLaren's recent struggles might actually be their biggest strategic masterstroke? While fans panic about their fading dominance, the Papaya team could be playing chess while everyone else plays checkers. Here's what's happening behind the scenes that nobody's talking about. We're witnessing what might be the most brilliant long-term play in modern Formula One, and it's happening right under our noses. Let me paint you a picture. Just a few months ago, McLaren looked unstoppable. They had the fastest car, the best race pace, and their drivers were cruising toward what seemed like an inevitable championship. Then, suddenly, everything changed. Max Verstappen started winning again. Mercedes found pace in Singapore. Red Bull looked competitive in Azerbaijan and Monza. McLaren hasn't won a race since the Dutch Grand Prix. On the surface, this looks like a team losing its edge. But what if it's actually the opposite? What if McLaren's apparent decline is actually evidence of their supreme confidence? Think about it this way. In Formula One, there's an old saying that to stand still is to go backwards. Every team is constantly developing, constantly pushing, constantly trying to find those extra tenths of a second. But McLaren seems to have stopped pushing as hard as their rivals. Their recent upgrades have been minimal compared to the significant packages other teams have brought. Why would a team battling for a championship suddenly ease off development? The answer lies in what's coming next year. Formula One is about to undergo its biggest regulatory shakeup since the ground effect cars were introduced. The current era ends after this season, replaced by completely new rules featuring flat-bottomed cars, movable aerodynamics, and a massive shift toward electrical energy in the power units. It's essentially a complete reset of everything teams know about building fast cars. Here's where McLaren's strategy gets interesting. While other teams are still pouring resources into fighting for positions this year, McLaren appears to have made a calculated decision. They've already secured the Constructors' Championship, their second in a row, and something they haven't achieved since the early 1990s. With that financial windfall locked in, they can afford to shift focus. The evidence suggests McLaren started developing their car for the new regulations earlier than anyone else. While Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari are still throwing development resources at their current machines, McLaren has been quietly building their advantage for next year. It's the ultimate display of confidence in their current position. Consider the implications. Teams that switch focus early don't just get more time to develop their new cars, they get significantly more resources to throw at the problem. Every aerodynamicist, every engineer, every simulation hour that other teams are spending on marginal gains for this year, McLaren is investing in revolutionary gains for next year. This strategy becomes even more compelling when you look at McLaren's engine partnership. They run Mercedes power units, and Mercedes has a proven track record of nailing new engine regulations. The German manufacturer dominated the previous hybrid era and has remained competitive throughout the current period. Paddock whispers suggest the Mercedes engine package is looking strong for the new regulations. But here's the psychological masterstroke that nobody's discussing. For Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, this strategic pivot actually takes pressure off the current championship fight. Yes, one of them will likely win this year's title, creating the ultimate high for one and crushing disappointment for the other. But both drivers know what's happening behind the scenes. They understand that while this might be their best shot at a championship under the current rules, it might not be their only shot. If McLaren has successfully positioned itself ahead of the pack for the regulatory reset, both drivers could have multiple opportunities to fight for titles in the coming years. This creates a fascinating dynamic. The driver who doesn't win this year won't face the devastating thought that they've missed their only chance. Instead, they'll know that McLaren's early investment in next year's car could provide even better opportunities ahead. The beauty of this strategy lies in its calculated risk. McLaren already has what matters most locked up. The Constructors' Championship brings financial rewards and prestige. The Drivers' Championship would be the cherry on top, but it's not essential for the team's long-term success. Meanwhile, teams like Mercedes and Ferrari find themselves in a completely different position. They're locked in an expensive battle for second place in the constructors' standings, a fight worth millions of dollars. They can't afford to completely shift focus to next year because every point matters financially. This forces them to split resources between current performance and future development. McLaren faces no such dilemma. With their championship secured and their trophy cabinet getting a new polish, they can look toward the future with clarity and purpose. What looks like declining performance might actually be the most confident move any team has made in years. The true test of this strategy will come when the new season begins. If McLaren emerges with a dominant car while their rivals scramble to understand the new regulations, we'll look back at these final races of the current era as a masterclass in strategic thinking. For now, we're left watching what appears to be a team losing its edge. But appearances can be deceiving in Formula One. Sometimes the smartest move is the one that looks like weakness to everyone else. McLaren might just be proving that winning tomorrow is more important than winning today. Whether this gamble pays off remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: McLaren is playing a different game than everyone else, and they're playing it with the confidence of a team that knows something their rivals don't.